It was a Thursday evening when Adam Clark's life changed forever. He had just returned home from another uneventful day of teaching 7th grade science at Ridgeview Middle School. His small apartment in Detroit was as ordinary as he was: gray walls, mismatched furniture, and the soft hum of the city outside his window. He sat down with a beer, flipping channels, when the ping of his intergalactic mail notifier jolted him upright. Adam blinked at the screen, certain it must be a mistake. He rarely received anything on the galactic network. He only kept his outdated account active to occasionally stream alien documentaries. But the message's header wasn't spam or a subscription renewal. It read, "Notice of inheritance from the estate of Garmok Vitralor." Garmok. The name hit Adam like a splash of ice water. He hadn't thought about Garmok in years. Not since that bizarre, heart-pounding adventure on Capelon Delta, where Adam had accidentally stumbled into an interstellar summit while on a budget vacation. Garmok had been there, a Loxarian diplomat, dealing with some trade dispute. Adam had saved him, well, mostly by luck, when a sabotage attempt left the Loxarian envoy ship spinning toward a toxic gas giant. Garmok had called him a worthy friend and promised to remember him always. Adam had laughed it off as a polite alien gesture and gone back to his normal earthbound life. But now, this. The message included a holographic recording of a silver-skinned alien with large glassy eyes and a crest of pale, feather-like fins. "Mr. Clark," it began in smooth, practiced standard, "you are named as the primary beneficiary of Garmaki Vitralor's estate, per his final testament. I am Zraltok Reeve, the executor of the Vitralor estate. The will stipulates that you are to receive all assets, properties, and legal responsibilities previously held by the deceased. The estate is located on the moon Rylithis. Should you accept this inheritance, further details will be provided upon your arrival." The recording ended. Adam stared at the screen, his beer warming in his hand. This had to be some kind of elaborate prank, but when he cross-checked the sender's credentials through the galactic registry, they were legitimate. Zraltok Reeve was a certified executor, and the Vitralor name matched known records of Loxarian diplomats. This was real. Still, Adam hesitated. A moon he'd never heard of? Assets and responsibilities? He hadn't left Earth since the Capelon trip years ago, and even then he'd barely managed to navigate the alien bureaucracy. But then again, he couldn't ignore the pang of curiosity. What kind of wealth? What kind of estate? And why had Garmok chosen him of all people? It wasn't until the next morning that Adam made the decision. He called in a personal day at work, reactivated his dormant galactic travel pass, and booked a passage to Rylithis. The trip would take nearly a week. But what was one more odd twist in the already surreal turn his life had taken? As his shuttle lifted off, Adam gazed out at the receding curve of Earth. All his usual concerns, student test scores, rent payments, his overbearing principal, seemed to shrink into insignificance. Somewhere out there, among the stars, awaited. The journey to Rylithis was both awe-inspiring and disorienting. Adam spent most of it glued to his window, watching the kaleidoscope of space lanes filled with vessels from hundreds of worlds. The shuttle, a sleek vessel piloted by a multi-armed Kyverian crew, finally dropped him off at a transport hub in orbit around the moon. There, Adam boarded a smaller, more personal craft that ferried him to the surface. As the shuttle descended, Rylithis revealed itself as a place of ethereal beauty. The moon's surface was a patchwork of shimmering blue forests, gleaming crystalline plains, and winding rivers that seemed to glow faintly in the dim starlight. Here and there, the remains of ancient Loxarian structures dotted the landscape, high, spires that looked like they had been carved from ice, floating platforms and vast arched bridges that spanned impossible distances. This was no backwater moon. This was a jewel of the Loxarian legacy. When Adam stepped off the transport at the landing platform, he was greeted by two figures who appeared to have been waiting for him. The first was tall and regal, her sharp, angular features framed by a crown of delicate silver tendrils. She moved with a calculated grace as if each step was part of a deliberate strategy. The second, slightly shorter, had a rounder face, softer expressions, and vibrant, sparkling eyes. Her presence radiated warmth and approachability. "I am Lirthana," the taller one said, inclining her head. "Companion and advisor to the late Garmok. "And I'm Viralan," said the second with a warm smile that seemed to cut through Adam's nervousness. "It's good to meet you at last, Adam." Adam tried to return the smile, though he still felt off balance. It's good to meet you too. I guess you've been expecting me." "We have," Lirthana said, her voice calm and authoritative. "Garmok made it clear you were his choice. We are here to ensure that his legacy continues." "Legacy?" Adam glanced between them. "I thought I was just inheriting his, wealth?" "You inherited his responsibilities," Viralan corrected gently, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "Rylithis is more than a place. It is a trust, and we are here to help you honor it." Lirthana added, "You'll find that Garmok left you more than mere possessions. He left you a role to play." Adam nodded slowly, though his mind was racing. He followed the two Clovey women as they guided him through the estate's gates. The property was enormous, a sprawling complex of crystalline towers and lush gardens that seemed to stretch for miles. Everything about it felt ancient and alive, like the moon itself was aware of his presence. Inside the central structure, the three of them sat in a circular room filled with light that seemed to shift and change in hue depending on where you looked. Adam's eyes kept darting around, trying to take it all in. "So, what exactly did Garmok do here?" Adam finally asked. "I mean, I know he was a diplomat, but what does that have to do with this place?" "Garmok was more than a diplomat," Viralan explained. "He was a steward of Rylithis. This estate is not just a residence, it is a hub, a center for trade and knowledge, a sanctuary for those in need." Over the years, Garmok turned this estate into a place where cultures could meet, where conflicts could be diffused, Lirthana said, her tone as sharp as her gaze. "He maintained alliances, nurtured peace, and managed resources that kept the moon thriving." Adam rubbed the back of his neck. "And he thought I could handle that?" Viralan leaned closer, her voice full of reassurance. "Garmok trusted you, Adam. He saw in you someone who cared, someone who acted when it mattered. He believed you would rise to the challenge, just as you did when you saved him." Adam sighed. The weight of it all was starting to settle on his shoulders. A lush estate on a beautiful moon might sound like a dream, but this was starting to feel like a job he wasn't qualified for. And then there were Lirthana and Viralan. He didn't fully understand their role in all of this yet, but it was clear they were more than just part of the inheritance. They were partners in this strange new chapter of his life. As the day drew to a close, Adam found himself looking out over the moon's crystalline fields from the estate's highest balcony. The alien sun dipped below the horizon, casting the landscape in shades of silver and blue. Behind him, Lirthana and Viralan stood quietly, waiting for his decision. He knew he could turn back, return to Earth, and let the whole thing go. But something about the way Garmok had believed in him, and the way these two strangers looked at him with both hope and expectation, kept him rooted in place. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, "but I'll try." Lirthana nodded approvingly. Veer Aylan smiled. And as the stars began to twinkle in the Rhylithi sky, Adam Clark took his first uncertain steps into a life he never could have imagined. Adam was starting to realize that Rhylithi wasn't just an alien estate. It was a riddle. Every corner of the sprawling complex held clues to Garmok's life and the moon's place in the galactic community. Adam had spent days wandering its halls, each step pulling him further into his late friend's world. The crystalline walls of the estate seemed to shift in hue as he walked, almost as if they were alive, responding to his presence. It was eerie but not unwelcome. Lirthana had suggested that he begin with the central library. It was less a room and more a cavern, an open space whose vaulted ceiling shimmered with countless beams of captured starlight. Rows upon rows of suspended data crystals hung in the air, each containing what Lirthana called Garmok's personal archives. Many of these are encrypted, she said, leading him to a console. Garmok was meticulous about protecting sensitive information. However, certain entries were left open intentionally, I suspect, for your review. Veer Aylan hovered nearby, her expressive eyes soft with encouragement. It's like a story, she told him as he approached the console. A story he wanted you to hear. Adam touched the console's interface. A gentle hum vibrated through. His fingertips and the floating data crystals began to rearrange themselves. A voice, Garmok's voice, filled the chamber, smooth and resonant despite the alien tones. Adam, the recording began. If you're hearing this, then I'm no longer there to explain things myself. But if there's one thing I learned, in all my years of negotiation and diplomacy, it's that the right person often comes along just when they're needed. You are that person. I chose you because I trust you, because I believe you'll take what I've built and make it better. The message played on, but it was less of a briefing and more of a personal reflection. Garmok spoke of his love for Rhylithi, how he'd transformed it from a desolate moon into a sanctuary for those seeking refuge from galactic conflicts. He described how the estate's wealth wasn't simply monetary, it was cultural. He had assembled scholars, artisans, and diplomats here, creating a haven of learning and cooperation. The resources Adam now controlled were intended to sustain that mission, but there was more, something Garmok hadn't said outright. As Adam continued digging through the open files, he found fragments of encrypted messages, coded logs, and half-finished entries. Veer Aylan noticed his frown as he tried to make sense of it all. Something wrong? She asked, peering at the console. These entries, Adam said. They don't feel complete. Garmok kept repeating the importance of protecting the estate, of watching over Rhylithi, but there's this sense, like he was worried about something. Lirthana stepped closer, her voice measured. He was careful. Garmok always knew that his position made him a target. Rhylithi' resources, its strategic location. It's no secret that others wanted control. Others like who? Adam asked. She hesitated, her sharp gaze fixed on the swirling crystals. Garmok never spoke openly of his enemies, but the clues are here. With time you might find the answers. Adam leaned back in his chair, staring at the display. For all the talk of wealth and legacy, what Garmok had truly left him was a puzzle, one that might still be dangerous to solve. That night, as Adam sat alone in the estate's grand dining hall, he couldn't shake the feeling that Garmok's death had been no accident. His two companions were loyal and knowledgeable, but they couldn't give him all the answers. For now, Adam knew only one thing for certain. Garmok's trust had the estate on Rhylithi was no longer just a treasure trove of knowledge and beauty. To Adam, it had become a labyrinth of secrets. The deeper he dug into Garmok's files, the more questions arose. Many of the encrypted entries seemed to point toward a shadowy power struggle. Words like Laronix cartel, mineral embargo, and Iran 6 blockade began to appear again and again, tied to vague references to hostile factions. Garmok's passing, Adam began to suspect, was less a matter of chance and more a calculated move by forces who stood to benefit from his absence. Garmok shielded us from much of this, Viralin told Adam one morning as they stood in the estate's greenhouse. The crystalline plants glittered around them, casting prisms of light onto her pale lavender skin. He didn't want us to be burdened by the threats he faced. He believed the estate should remain a place of peace. Well, that plan didn't exactly work out, Adam muttered, adjusting the comm device in his ear. If he was in so much trouble, why did he choose me? I'm not a diplomat or a strategist. I'm a middle school teacher. You're also the one who saved his life, Liarthana said sharply. She stood by the doorway, her posture rigid, her hands clasped behind her back. Garmok didn't trust easily, and yet he trusted you. He must have believed you could think your way out of a crisis. I don't even know what the crisis is, Adam retorted, but even as he said it, he knew that wasn't true anymore. The pieces were there. A pattern was emerging. The minerals beneath Rylithus's surface were uniquely valuable, not only as energy sources but also for their rare catalytic properties in advanced medical and military technologies. Garmok had been their steward, ensuring that no single entity gained control over them. Now that he was gone, the balance of power was tilting. The encrypted files hinted that Garmok had been negotiating an agreement with a faction of the Aeron Council, an agreement that could have prevented a full-scale resource war. His death, it seemed, had left that agreement incomplete. I think Garmok was killed before he could finalize a treaty, Adam said finally. If he'd succeeded, it would have stopped a cartel from gaining a monopoly on Rylithus's resources. Maybe they didn't want that. Viralin looked at him with concern. If that's true, Adam, then we might all be in danger. The realization struck like a hammer blow. This wasn't just about ancient records or forgotten treaties, it was about survival. If the cartel suspected Adam of inheriting more than just the estate, if they believed he held the key to Garmok's unfinished negotiations, they might come for him next. That afternoon, Liarthana proposed a plan. We must secure the estate's defenses. I'll work with the estate's systems to ensure no unauthorized entry is possible. Viralin, you should focus on maintaining morale and ensuring the staff are prepared for any contingency. Adam looked between them. And me? You must do what you do best, Liarthana said. Ask questions, investigate, find out who is behind this and what they truly want. It was easier said than done. Adam spent hours sorting through Garmok's fragmented logs, piecing together communications with various factions. He reached out to surviving contacts of Garmok's, an old ambassador here, a retired trade negotiator there. What he learned painted a grim picture. The Laronix cartel wasn't just a criminal enterprise. It was a vast, multi-species network that had bribed and intimidated its way into controlling entire sectors. Garmok had been one of the few who'd stood against them. By nightfall, Adam felt the walls closing in. He didn't have Garmok's experience, and he wasn't sure he could navigate the web of lies and power plays. But as he returned to the main hall, he found Viralin waiting for him, holding a small glowing crystal. "This came for you," she said. "A message from one of Garmok's old contacts. I think you should listen to it." The holographic projection that unfolded showed a grizzled alien in faded ceremonial robes. The figure's voice was gruff, yet earnest. "Clark," he said, "if you're hearing this, you need to act quickly. The cartel is already moving. They'll come for Rylithus and they'll come for you. But they're also vulnerable. I can't say more on this channel. Seek out the beacon Garmok left in the outer shoals. It's your only chance." Adam stared at the flickering hologram until it dissolved. The outer shoals, he didn't even know where that was. But Garmok had left it for him. The answer wasn't in the estate's archives, it was out there somewhere. He looked at Vir Allen and Lirthana. "We need to find that beacon," he said. "Whatever Garmok left there, it's the only way to stop this cartel from tearing apart everything he built." Lirthana nodded, her expression as sharp as a blade. "I'll prepare a transport. But be careful, Adam. The closer you get to the truth, the more dangerous this will become." Adam took a deep breath. For the first time, he felt not just out of place, but out of his depth. Still, he knew he had to try. Garmok had left him a legacy. The coordinates led Adam, Lirthana, and Virulin deep into the outer shoals, a region of space known for its treacherous gravitational anomalies and the scattered debris of ancient conflicts. Their borrowed transport ship wasn't designed for stealth or combat, making each kilometer a nerve-wracking crawl. Even the faintest sensor ping could mean detection by the Loronics cartel. The beacon was hidden on a derelict orbital platform, a structure long thought abandoned after the fall of the old Loxarian protectorate. As their ship approached, automated, defenses hummed to life. Lirthana managed to crack the access codes, likely another piece of foresight left behind by Garmok, and soon they docked with the ancient facility. Inside, the station's halls were eerily still. Dust hung in the air, and the faint hum of dormant power cores thrummed in the background. Vir Allen led the way, her empathetic senses tuned to any faint signs of lingering activity. But the platform appeared empty. Adam followed closely, clutching a datapad containing Garmok's last known logs. "Garmok mentioned a data repository," he said, scanning the schematics Lirthana had uploaded to his pad. "If this beacon is still functioning, it'll be there." They made their way through the winding corridors until they reached a circular chamber filled with cylindrical data consoles. In the center, a crystalline node pulsed faintly. Adam approached cautiously, feeling both awe and trepidation. As he activated the node, the room flickered with light. A hologram of Garmok appeared, older and more somber than Adam remembered. The projection began to speak in a calm, measured tone. "Adam, Lirthana, Vir Allen," it said, acknowledging each of them. "If you've come this far, then you know the stakes. The Loronics cartel is not just a threat to Rylithis, but to countless worlds. They have infiltrated governments, crushed dissent, and now they seek to exploit Rylithis resources to cement their power. I've left this beacon to guide you to the one thing that can stop them." The hologram went on to describe a secret alliance Garmok had been quietly building, an alliance of neutral planets and independent factions that had remained under the radar of the cartel's control. Garmok had spent years cultivating trust, forging connections, and laying the groundwork for a united front against the Loronics Empire. The beacon contained encrypted communication channels and proof of cartel misconduct, enough to convince these hidden allies to step out of the shadows. But this alliance needs a leader. Garmok's hologram continued, looking directly at Adam. "Someone who understands the value of fairness, who won't be swayed by greed or fear, someone who can stand in my place not as a ruler but as a steward. I chose you, Adam, because I saw in you the qualities that can unite these factions. If you choose to walk away, I will understand. But if you choose to take up this mantle, know that you will not be alone. Vir Allen and Lirthana will be at your side." The hologram dissolved, leaving the three of them in silence. Adam could feel the weight of their gazes on him. Lirthana's sharp eyes searched his face, while Vir Allen's gentle expression radiated quiet support. "I'm not Garmok," Adam said finally, his voice low. "I'm just a guy from Earth. I don't have his experience, his connections." "You have something else," Vir Allen said softly. You have his trust. You have us. And you have the chance to finish what he started. Lirthana stepped forward. We don't need another Garmok. We need you. Someone who can see the bigger picture, who can bring these allies together. If you can do that, the cartel won't stand a chance. Adam hesitated, the weight of the choice pressing down on him. He had wanted nothing more than to return to his quiet, simple life. But now he saw that Garmok's faith in him wasn't misplaced. He might not have chosen this path, but it had chosen him. And it wasn't just about protecting Rylithis, it was about upholding the principles Garmok had lived by. All right, Adam said at last. Let's do it. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Using the data from the beacon, Adam, Lirthana, and Viralan began reaching out to the hidden factions. Lirthana's strategic mind was invaluable, helping Adam navigate the complex alliances. Viralan's empathetic insight brought reluctant leaders to the table, breaking through years of mistrust. And Adam himself found a voice he never knew he had, speaking not as a diplomat or a general, but as someone who believed in the power of unity. When the Loronix cartel finally made their move, sending ships to seize Rylithis's resources, they were met with a coordinated resistance. Fleets from the hidden factions emerged from hyperspace, outflanking the cartel's forces. The battle was tense, but the alliance held. In the end, the cartel's influence crumbled. Their leaders were captured, their schemes exposed, and their empire fractured. Rylithis remained free. The estate became a symbol of resilience, its wealth now used to rebuild and strengthen the newly formed coalition. And Adam, though still adjusting to his new role, found a sense of purpose he had never imagined. As he stood on the balcony of the estate one evening, looking out over the crystalline fields of Rylithis, Adam turned to Viralan and Lirthana. They had become more than advisors or companions. They were partners, each bringing their own strengths to the challenges they faced. Together, they honored Garmok's legacy, not by following in his exact footsteps, but by forging a new path of their own. The stars above Rylithis burned brightly, a reminder of the vast galaxy still out there. Adam knew there were more challenges ahead, more threats lurking in the shadows. But for now he allowed himself a moment of peace, knowing that they had done something extraordinary, and most importantly, they had